Everybody is working on their Common Apps. It's that time of year. The good news is that most of what's asked in the Common App is stuff that you already know. Your name, your address, where you go to high school, what your senior year classes are. These are all things that you know. But there's some tricky language in it, and there are going to be a couple of places where you're going to probably need some help. One section that students commonly need help with is the family section. They ask you about your family members. Students typically will know if their parents went to college or graduate school, where they went. They often don't know the year that their parents graduated or the specific name of the degree that they earned, so you'll need to ask questions about that. There's also questions about your parents' work. And so if your parents work outside of the home, again, a lot of students will know what their parents do, but they might not know their specific title. Or if they don't work outside of the home, they might not be sure how to list that. So you'll need some help with that. And every once in a while, I have students who have a question. They know they ask about siblings too, and they're not sure. They're 14 or 13. I'm not sure. So if you're one of those people, make sure you get your siblings information right as well. But that's basically where people have some questions in the family section. Another section that people need help with is in education. So you'll need to ask your school counselor how many students are in the graduating class, how should you list your GPA, and things relating to rank and GPA scale. They'll have all that information for you. So go and ask them about that. The place that students tend to spend the most time and have the most questions is the activities section, because the descriptions are so short and it can be really difficult to do it well. It's short, but that doesn't mean it's not important. So there's 150 characters, not words, but 150 characters for your activity descriptions. Make sure you focus on you and your contributions and your role. Don't just describe the activity. And make sure you also make good use of those other little fields about the name of the organization and the position, things like that. You can get some information in there, and that gives you a little bit more space and a little bit more breathing room in the description field. So make sure you take advantage of that. There's also an honors section that gives you up to 5 honors. You don't get to describe anything, but there are sometimes things that could kind of go either way. They could go in the academic honors section or in the activities. If you need a little bit more space in the activities section, you might want to stick one of those in the honors section. And speaking of number of spaces that you have, there are up to 10 in the Common App activities section. That's not because they expect you to have 10. That's because they don't want to hear about more than 10. And don't feel compelled to fill in every space if you don't have 10 substantive things to put in. Sometimes I advise students not to fill in, numbers 9 and 10, because it's not really stuff they did anything with, and they have so much other good stuff that it almost dilutes the good stuff. And so, don't feel compelled to fill in all 10. It's not ideal to only have, a few of them filled in, but you can put in things from the school year, put in things from the summertime, but you're going to have to prioritize and put them in their order of importance to you and decide what deserves a spot and what doesn't. The other big part of the Common App is the writing section. That's where your essay goes in. The essay should be worked on outside of the Common App. Don't be writing and editing within the Common App. Do it in Word or do it in Google Docs and then paste it in. The Common App does add spaces in between paragraphs, regardless of what you paste in has them there or not. So make sure to use the preview button, which is in the upper right-hand corner of each section, and check out and see how your essay is looking. That's the way admissions officers are going to see it. So you want to make sure it's just right. That's pretty much it for the main part of the Common App as far as the tricky parts. The testing section is optional. Different colleges have different policies. If you mark that you're not submitting testing, sometimes that means they can't see any of it. Sometimes it means they just, that they won't see what you have. They'll see what you put. They won't see what you haven't put. Make sure you check with them, but it's fairly straightforward. On to the supplements. When you add a college to your My Colleges list, it will pop up in the left-hand side. You'll see that some of them show up a little bit differently. You'll see a question section and a writing section. Some of them you're just going to see question section. Either way, you're going to want to go through it. The Common Application is a smart app. That means that it can change dynamically as you answer questions. This is especially important in the supplement section. So go in, don't just go in and look and say, hey, let me just quickly check and see what writing I have to do for this school. Answer, click the radio buttons. What term are you applying for? What college within the university are you applying to, if it's a place that does it that way? What major are you interested in? There are schools that the essays that you get are going to change depending on how you answer those questions. You don't want to be in a situation where you go in, you look at the essays, you see an essay or two, you work on it, and then you go closer to the deadline to pop it in and then submit it, and you realize, oh my God, I've got another essay or two to write now, and I don't have the time to do it. Or if I would have known I was going to have to write about that, I wouldn't have mentioned the other thing in the other essay. So make sure you do that before you say you're done with your essays for each school. You will be prompted before you submit. You're going to be prompted to review and submit your application. Don't worry about it. When you hit review and submit, there are several steps before it will actually submit. It's nearly impossible to accidentally or unintentionally submit your Common App. There are several steps before it actually happens, but hit review and submit. And instead of seeing just one section the way you do in the preview sections in the main part of the Common App, you're actually going to see your entire Common App, including the supplement for that school. And so you can really see it exactly how it's going to be seen and read by the admissions folks on the other side. And so do that whether you're getting ready to submit or whether you're just doing a proofread of it and kind of trying to make sure that everything is perfect. But the key is that the Common App is a smart application. And so when you go and look at those supplements, make sure that you fill in the radio buttons, that you answer those questions, and then take a look at each section to make sure that you're not missing anything. Another tricky thing about those supplements is that sometimes there's going to be essays in the writing section, and then in the question section, there are also essays. So it's not that only the writing section has essays. You'll get kind of a general question maybe about why you want to go there or something else in the writing section. But then in the question section, you'll get an essay about either your academic interests or maybe even sometimes extracurricular interests as well. So just be careful about that. And whatever you do, do not go and submit your application like right at the deadline. The system always crashes. There's no reason to put yourself under that kind of pressure. And you want to make sure this application is the best it can possibly be. And the way to do that is to proofread it and to check it in a calm way, not under major pressure and a time crunch. So if there's one thing you remember from this, it's to make sure that you give yourself a little bit of breathing room and do things in advance. Don't wait until the last minute. I hope this is helpful. If you have any other questions, make sure to DM us. Thanks for tuning in.